I am going to walk you through the Concord contract management system today. Concord is a unique platform. It is a cloud-based contract lifecycle management system that allows you to manage everything from contract creation, negotiation, e-signature, and then also receiving alerts for your contracts after the contract has been signed and into a repository, and allows for unlimited contract storage. Also, the contract e-signatures, sharing, and other features within the system are unlimited. Concord is unique that way, where you can have as many contracts in the system as you'd like, you can send out as many e-signatures, and you never have to worry about hitting a certain data cap. Also, Concord is cloud-based. Everything resides within the AWS system or the Amazon cloud, so it's very easy for you to access Concord from a mobile device, a smartphone, tablet, also a computer, and it works with pretty much any web browser out there, so it's very easy to access Concord. What you're seeing here is what we call our contract inbox. The contract inbox is the first thing a user sees when they log into Concord, and here it was designed to look similar to a Gmail inbox or an email inbox. That was intentional so that it was something that people were already familiar with and that they were used to. I've got all my different lines here, which are individual contracts, and you can see I have lots of different types of contracts here. I've got a mutual NDA, I've got a vendor agreement, purchase agreements, even employee contracts, things like that. And Concord can be used for any contract within your organization, whether that be an HR contract, purchase, sales, legal. Any of those departments, any of those contracts or agreements are what Concord is designed to work with. I can see here the status of the contract, who the contract is with, which is my third party, the title, the tags, and then also the last modified date. Everything right now is being filtered by the last modified date, which allows me to see when the contract has had recent changes to it, or if the contract is a new contract within my inbox. I can also see the status here, and the status is automatically updated by Concord. As the contract goes through its life cycle, the system will automatically update the status. So let's say that this contract is in negotiation. That means I've shared that contract out to my third party, and we're both still looking at the contract and negotiating, maybe sending some red lines or some terms back and forth. That would be the negotiation process. Signature pending means that at least one party has signed the contract, but we're waiting on another party to sign. And you've also got in effect, which would be a contract that has been signed by all parties and has now had an effective date set up on it. So these are just a few examples of the statuses in Concord, but the nice thing to know about is that you're able to see the status of the contract at any time by simply logging in and taking a glance at the contract. Now, with this inbox, we have some subfolders that make it easier for you to see specific things. We have a subfolder here for all of your contract templates. With Concord, because we're a system used to create, negotiate, e-sign contracts, templates are a very popular feature. It's really nice to be able to pull up a template in the system and be able to share that out with all the appropriate parties in your company, and so everyone is always on the right version of that contract. And to create a template in Concord, you can simply upload a Word or PDF document to create a template. It's a very easy process, or you can also use Concord's built-in Word editor to create the template right on the system. We have a folder here for all of your contracts that are in progress. So these are contracts that have been created, but they have not yet been fully executed. So if I want to come in here and see which contracts I still need to focus on or that need to have work done on them, that would be this in progress folder. So for someone in the legal department, someone in the sales department, or just someone that deals with a lot of contract negotiations, this is a really great place to be able to come to see, okay, this is where all my contracts are at. We've also got an executed folder here, which is where we house all of our signed contracts, or contracts that are past the signature stage. So this has things like contracts that are in effect, signed, maybe some even that are in the renewal stage, and some that have even ended. So pretty much anything past that signature stage is going to show up here. And Concord, because we are a central repository, can be used to store all of those existing contracts that your company has. And we even have the ability to help you upload those contracts into the system when you first get started, so that we can truly manage all of your contracts in one platform. And if you think about the capabilities that will give you as a company, being able to report, being able to have visibility of all of your contracts in one place, it really gives you some peace of mind and really makes your life a whole lot easier when it comes to contracts. Now down below here we have a really important part of the system. It's called our tagging structure, and I like to say that it's similar to a folder structure where I can set up tags based on contract type, based on a location, based on a department that the contract should belong to. As you see a couple examples here, like this contract is tagged sales and vendor. This contract is tagged HR employee handbook. And so these are a few examples of the way that the tagging is set up. Tagging is going to do three different things for us. Number one, it's going to help us organize all of our contracts, and so that we can very quickly find them by clicking on a tag. Number two, it's going to help us to report on certain contracts. So let's say I wanted to pull a report based on all of my NDAs that have been signed in 2017. As long as I'm tagging all those NDAs correctly, I would then very easily be able to pull up that report based on the tag. And number three, it helps with what we call contract access rights. And contract access rights is determining which user has access to which contracts in the system. Of course, when we're dealing with your company's contracts, they're very sensitive documents, and you wouldn't necessarily want every person in your company to have access to every contract. And so we can limit access to the contracts based on the tag. So I can say for my sales team, I want them to see all contracts tagged sales, but I don't necessarily want them to see any of my legal contracts or other contracts that are in the system. We do have a few different ways of creating new contracts in Concord or uploading contracts. We have a new document to sign. That's if I was going to take a contract from outside the system. Maybe a third party sends me their contract and I want to upload that to Concord so that I can have that contract, begin working on that and have that inside the system. That would be a new document to sign. And I could simply take a Word or PDF document and upload that to the system to accomplish that. I can also create a new template, which is if I wanted to create a new template and use that and save that within the system. And I can also add an executed document. So let's say you have a contract that's signed outside of Concord. Maybe it's a standard signature, maybe it's in another signature provider. You can very easily upload that contract to the system so that you can then add all of your metadata to that and set up your contract alerts and be able to manage that contract within the Concord system. We also have an actions required section. And the actions required section is great for people that do a lot of contract approvals or a lot of signature requests. And so this is a section where those people, any of their to-do items or the actions that are required of them, for example, signing a contract or approving a contract, are going to all show up here in one place. They will receive emails for each of these steps within a contract, but it's nice for them to be able to come into their inbox and quickly see, okay, these are the contracts I need to sign, or these are the contracts that I need to approve. And they can come here, select those contracts, and then they can either approve, reject, sign, and they can take care of those all in one place very quickly, so that they can, not have to go into each one of those contracts individually. So back in the inbox here, the next step I want to go through is creating a contract, and we're going to do that from a template. So I'm going to pull up my different templates here in the system, and I'm going to select one of my templates to work off of. So I've grabbed my vendor agreement terms, and from this template we have the summary sheet. And so I've got my contract template here, and this was simply uploaded as a Word document to the system. And then in my summary sheet, I'm able to see all of the different information about this contract, and I could even start setting up that information from the template level. So I've got, for example, who my third party is. I've got tagging. I have the ability to set up an approval workflow. And the approval workflow is a very popular feature within Concord. If you wanted to set up and determine who needs to approve this contract before it can be signed by a third party, or just before it's finally completed within the system, you can actually set up an approval workflow here and have multiple people come in and have to approve this contract. So I've set up 2 approvers here. We do have a lot of different options with the approval workflow. I can add multiple people per step. I can have either all of those users need to sign off per step or any one of those users. So let's say I had 4 users on level 1 and I wanted to have all 4 of those users sign off or any one of them. I can choose those different options. So the approval workflow just makes it so anytime this template is used, these people will have to sign off on that contract before it can be officially executed and a completed contract. It's a really nice way of managing that process, and it's something that is automated in the system. I'm going to remove that for now, or else it's not going to let me continue forward because I'm not going to get those approvals. But we do also have the ability to set up different custom data fields. So if there are certain things that you want to track on the contract in the metadata, for example, I want to create a field here that's going to track the contact name. I can go ahead and put that information in. And then whenever I create a contract, I'll come here and I'll put in the name or the information that I've been asked to provide for that contract. We can also put in additional clauses. So if you have standard clauses on a contract or different things that you wanted to be able to track on a contract, you could put that information in here as well. So that's all information that can be added to the template. And of course, I can share this template out with any of my colleagues or people in my organization that should have access to the template. And the next step would be for me to go ahead and click Use and turn this template into an individual draft. I now have an individual draft of the contract, and I'm going to click the Edit button and make a few changes to the contract. I can also even come in and add a comment here to the body of the contract if I wanted to. And just like you can add comments within a Word document, it's the same process. So maybe I want to come in here and tell one of my reviewers to review a certain section. And I could also make a comment for a third party as well. So we have the option to do an internal comment, meaning only people from your organization will see the comment. Or I can make a public comment, meaning my third party will see that as well. And this is completely compatible with Word. So if I did have a Word document with comments in it, and I uploaded that to Concord, I would be able to actually see those comments here in the system. And the same thing if I were to take a document, add comments, and then download it into Word, those comments would display in Word as well. So we do have that compatibility there. Now I've made my changes to the contract, and within my history tab here, I'll now be able to see the different versions of the contract. So I can see version to version, everything that is happening with the document. And I can see who made the new version or who made the changes, when it was made. And then I can also use this pin feature to compare any 2 versions together in the system. So let's say that I had version 5 and I wanted to compare that to version 20 to see what changes happened between those versions or just those 2 versions themselves. I could do that by pinning one and then comparing it to the other one. So it's kind of like a side-by-side comparison that other systems have built into them. I've also got my comment history here, which is the comments inside the document itself of what's actually been said on the contract. And then I have an audit trail, which is a permanent history of everything that's happening with this contract. Anytime this contract is updated, anytime a new version is created, it's shared to a third party, it gets signed, it gets approved. Any of those things are going to track here in the audit trail. And the audit trail will continue to update even after the contract has been signed as you're adding additional metadata, as you're updating metadata, doing different things with alerts. All of those things are going to track with the audit trail. which is really nice because it's a permanent way for you to know the history of the contract. Okay, so I now have my contract here with some edits on it. If I wanted to, I could actually share this out to one of my colleagues and I could review it with them. So I'm going to add Matilda here to my contract and put a message in. And I can choose what edit rights my colleagues have. This is also very beneficial when you're sharing it out to a third party. But I can choose if they have full edit rights, limited editing rights, or no edit rights. And I can go ahead and send this out. And you'll notice the status of the contract will then move into approval. And the reason for that is I'm working with a colleague on the contract. We're both part of the organization. And so, one or both of us is working to get an approval and we're having that internal collaboration. You'll also note that the message that I sent shows up here under the discussion panel. And this discussion panel is meant to be a central place for discussion about the contract. I can come in here and see, okay, I can put messages just for myself. I can put messages for people in my organization, or I can put messages for the public, which includes my third party. Because Concord is a way to do online negotiation and review, this is a great feature to be able to talk to your third parties and to your colleagues about a contract. And anytime I put a message in here for either a colleague or a third party, it's going to send an email out to them automatically letting them know about my comment and also a link back into this contract. So they could very quickly click on that link and come in and review, whatever it is I might be speaking about. Okay. The next thing that we have here is the ability to set up my e-signatures and share this out to a third party. So let's say that this contract has been approved internally, everything looks good to go, I've worked with my colleagues, and I now want to send this out to my third party so I can begin my third party negotiation process or so that I can just get the contract signed. So the first thing that I'll do is set up my e-signature. Now Concord has a pretty robust e-signature piece. There's quite a few different options with it. And I can actually put the image of the signature in the contract itself. This template is set up so that the signatures go within the signature fields in the contract, which is an option. And I can also choose to come down here and say who's going to sign the contract from my company. Of course, I'm going to be the signer for my company, so I'm just going to select myself. And I can also choose who's going to sign for my third party. So maybe I want to have a specific person sign. I could put their email address in, or I can have anybody sign that's invited to the document. With Concord, we go anywhere from 1 all the way up to 20 signatures per contract. And so you don't have to just do 1 or 2 signatures. You can go all the way up to 20 signatures if you needed to. So once I've set up my signature, the next step would be to go ahead and share this out to my third party. I can put a personal message in here. I can choose what edit rights my third party has. If I want my third party to be able to come in and actually make changes to the contract right in the Concord system, which of course will be tracked and you'll be notified of, that would be full edit rights. The other thing full edit rights allows you to do is to actually download the document as a Word doc. They could make their changes offline in Word, maybe doing a red line or other things, and then re-upload that to the system. So all of those different options would happen through full edit rights. Limited editing rights means that they're able to come in and fill out required fields, which are fields that you can put into the contract. Maybe you want them to fill out their name, their address, their phone number. Those types of things would be done through the limited editing rights. And then we also have the ability to set up no edit rights, which means they can come in and simply see the contract and sign the contract. Once I click the send button, you'll see that the contract changes to negotiation status, and I now have a third party on the contract as well as myself and my colleague Matilda. So with this, my third party just received an email with the message I sent them and a link back into the contract. They don't have to sign up for Concord, they don't have to create an account or log in. All my third party has to do is just simply click on the link that I sent them and that's going to bring them directly into the Concord platform. And they'll be able to see this contract, just the contract that we shared to them. And at that point, they can review the contract. They can edit the contract if they have edit capability. They can add messages to the discussion panel if they have questions. They could download if they have the ability to download the document in a Word doc if you've given them edit rights. They can also attach a file, so maybe a third party needs to come in and attach something, or maybe you want to attach something and send that out to them. Those are all options that your third party has. And then the last option, of course, would be to go ahead and sign the contract. So they can click that sign button, which shows up at the top of the contract as well as the bottom. They can fill out their signature information and then go ahead and just sign the contract. Concord's e-signature is legally binding. We work currently in over 110 countries where e-signature is considered valid, and our e-signature is valid in all those countries. So it's the same as them signing as a standard signature or with another e-signature provider. As you can see now, the status is in signature pending because I've signed the contract and I'm now just waiting on my third party to sign. So that is the process of contract creation, negotiation, e-signature, and also, just getting updates as far as all of those things are happening within the platform. The next thing that I want to show you is what we do with managing the contract once the contract has been signed. And all this data is in the summary sheet, but I'm actually going to pop into one of our contracts that has already been executed. So I've got this contract here. And I've got this Nike apparel agreement. I've got some information here in the summary sheet. And so I want to go through the summary sheet and really show you what each feature in the summary sheet is and how we set up our contract alerts and reminders. So the first thing that we have is our third-party information. So who the contract is with, contract description, tags that are on the contract can go here as well. We can then also set up a link for this contract, which is a really nice feature where I can come in here and say, okay, this contract, my Nike apparel agreement, this could be my master agreement, or this could be a contract that amends another contract. And so with Concord in our summary sheet, we have the ability to actually build out a contract structure. So I can do like a parent-child relationship, I can link contracts, I can say, hey, this contract's amended by this other contract and so forth, or I can just simply link them together because they have a relationship. And that way, once I've linked my contracts together, anytime I come into any one of these contracts that's linked, I'd be able to see the other contracts that pertain to that and what the relationship is. And so that way I always know which contracts are which in the system. The next thing that we have is the ability to set up our lifecycle information. So this is going to be when the contract was signed, the effective date of the contract, how long the contract is for. This could be until a specific date, it could be a period of time, it could be a permanent duration, a couple different options there. You can also put if the contract has an early termination notice. You can also put in renewals here. So maybe there is a renewal, maybe there's not a renewal. Maybe you have, if it's a permanent renewal or until a certain date or a period of time, things like that. And so I can set up all my different renewal information here as well. And based on the information that I'm saving here with my lifecycle, the system will automatically send an alert out to anybody that's on this contract that is set up to receive alerts. So that could be multiple people within an organization. That could be just a few people, but anybody that's set up to receive those alerts based on the tag and based on the contract is going to automatically receive those alerts when the contract is expiring or when that early termination notice is coming up. So for example, this contract ends on 5/2/2018. It has a 1-month notice of termination. So 90 days before that, because that's what my alerts are set to, 90 days before this 1-month notice of termination is due, the system is going to automatically start sending out contract alerts via email or text message or both. We also have the ability to add those custom fields like I talked about briefly before. So I could put in here any information that I want to, any type of data field, and then I can also put in a value for that data field. And the nice thing about this is it's customizable, but it's also something that pulls into a report. We do have a report that actually pulls out all the metadata from a contract, and so this is something where you could track this data on each contract in the system and then be able to pull a report for that. At the bottom here, we also have the ability to set up another type of alert or just track information in the system, which is our clause alert. So for example, I have a proof of insurance here. I could put in some additional content about the, either the alert or the clause itself. So this contract requires a proof of insurance. And right now it's set up to be a recurring event that happens every year. So maybe every year you need to renew that proof of insurance. And because I have this set up as a recurring event, it's going to automatically send me alerts based on when this contract's going to renew every year, or when that year is up every year. Also, if it was a financial term or a financial alert where I needed to maybe make a payment, or the cost is going to go up after a certain amount of time, or any of those things, I could also put in financial information here. And with the clauses in the system, they're unlimited. So I can have as many clauses on a contract as I need to, and I can have as many alerts going for each one of those as I need to as well. So really, with an individual contract, you can have as many alerts as you possibly need in the system. Now, it's nice to have all this information in the summary sheet. It's good to be able to see, okay, this is what's happening and I'm going to receive those email alerts. But we do also have a deadline report within Concord that's going to show you everything that's upcoming in the system in one place. So I can come in here and I can see this by date. Okay, this is what's coming up. I've got, a contract notice due, I've got a bill due, contract end date, insurance is expiring. All of these different things I can just see right here in one place. I can also filter these by tag. So maybe I want to look at a certain department or a certain contract type. I could do that. I can also filter by deadline type as well. So maybe I want to look at just my lifecycle information, or just my financial information or clauses. All that information is available here as well. Now, we have a few different types of reports with Concord. We have our analytics dashboard, which is going to show us a very high-level overview of what your contracts look like in the system. So I can see, for example, the number of contracts signed on Concord over time. I can see the status of executed documents by when they were signed. So I can see how many contracts I'm doing monthly or weekly or annually, and I can see that information here. I can see the status of documents by when they were created over time. And this is going to really show me how quickly I'm getting contracts completed and what those look like. I've also got the number of contracts over time and what their status is. So I can see kind of how many contracts we're doing once again. And I can filter these out by date. I can also filter by tag here as well if I needed to. And then we also have a dashboard for all of our deadline alerts. So if I wanted to see visually how many deadlines I have upcoming in the next week or month or year, you could actually see that here as well. And this really helps with forecasting purposes. If I want to be able to forecast based on, hey, this is how many contracts are coming up in June, and so I need to make sure I have, X amount of people to be able to handle those contracts, I could do that with this, this dashboard here. So that is a quick overview of the Concord platform. I've shown you all the basic features of the system as well as a few advanced features. Everything that you've seen here is available through our standard or our plus plan. Of course, we have our enterprise plan available as well. And the enterprise plan is going to give you things like being able to customize the emails that are being sent out, sending those from your own servers. We have a lot of other things like subsidiary management and LDAP or single sign-on that are available with our enterprise plan, which is a really great option as well. So if you have any questions about Concord, anything that we can help with, please reach out to myself or to our sales team, and we'd be happy to help and assist you with a more in-depth demonstration of the platform. And hopefully you've enjoyed this today.